Hello, hello, hello. Another episode of WP Townhall coming up in about 5 minutes here. If you guys hop in early, let me know that you're here and all that. Let me know that the audio is good. I'm gonna tell you right off the bat. I threw all of the weird information from the last couple times about the weird, like, it's not terrible audio quality, but it's just something happens literally when we're streaming, like my Chrome tab of X and the audio over to the stream. And when a speaker joins, there's some sort of weirdness. The thing that I got from Gemini when I put it in there and explained everything was that there could be a basically like a sample rate issue from, I don't know, I guess like X streaming the audio and then me trying to push it back through here. But it's happening over on Kevin's end too, so I'm not exactly sure. But Mohammed says the audio is good right now. Awesome. I think it might get a little weird. My audio should be good on this stream, but I don't know about the other guys once we do it. So we shall be starting here in a second. Let me send Mike McAlister is our guest today. If you guys didn't see that, super excited to chat with him. He just DM'd me and I got to give him the link here. So let me grab that. And Kevin should be starting up and we'll get it started. If you guys are here now, I'll give you a little bit of the quick backstory in the couple seconds we have here. But Mike McAlister is the founder, creator, not exactly sure what he dubs himself as, but the founder and creator of Ollie, the theme. So super excited to talk about that. He's got some cool opinions and interesting insights on code versus no code and the future of web design and everything. So we're going to be talking about all that. If you guys have any questions throughout this, you can feel free to jump into the actual space, which I will put here in the chat if you guys want to go there as well when it starts up in a couple minutes. You can hop in there and you can actually ask your question beyond the podcast. We would love you to do that. Or you can just drop them in the chat here and I will relay them as we go through everything. Let me just send a quick DM here. Just tell Mike that KG is going to be starting it up in a second. Should be starting it up in a moment. While we're doing this too, obviously, maybe not right now, but later I just uploaded a video, earlier I uploaded a video about some interesting insights that I had from a sales call last week. So that was kind of interesting on the state of kind of web design. I feel like kind of gave me a different perspective than I mean, I've had the perspectives before, but that was a specific instance that I just wanted to get some thoughts out there on. And then also there's a members only video right now. So if you're a member, you can go check it out, but tomorrow it'll be released. Similar type of thing. I was doing some research and just kind of getting more info into how our space is evolving and changing, because I do think it's significant. I like the X space format. I need your guys' feedback on that if you're liking it. Again, we're trying to restream it out to these other platforms, so it's a little bit more accessible. I know some people don't like X, but I mean the format though, I feel like you can't beat of having anybody be able to jump in and kind of speak and stuff like that. We really think that is a winning format, and we've enjoyed it so far. Just getting different voices on and everything. So yeah. Yep, exactly. Probably should have briefed Mike on that. That's on me. But we good. So Kevin is going to start this in a second. Again, if you guys have any thoughts, questions as we go through this, please drop them in, and I will do my best to relay them. Excited to have this conversation. Let me know also too, guys, if you have anybody that you would like to see on the pod here. WP Town Hall moving forward, because we are always looking for new and insightful guests in this time of WordPress, craziness to some degree, but also just in the general. Again, I really think that this 2025 year, I really do think that is going to be a really big shift in kind of design and web design. There was a quote, like I quoted a tweet earlier today too about some people, or this one guy was like saying like, proposing a $12,000 thing for 10 pages on a website, and then everybody's just lowballing the client at like 1,000, and they're like, yours is like 10 times more. It's like that's the exact experience that I've seen. I'm not saying that's like you shouldn't. I'm not saying you should lower your prices. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I think that's a very real, like, actual thing that I think Kevin's going to be streaming on tomorrow. And I think that that is something that you need to be concerned about and understand that that exists. And then how you go about, reacting to it and adapting to it, we can have further conversation. But first, you need to understand that it exists, and then you can, you know, try different things or see what happens. But for me, I know that this landscape is changing, and um, I think it's ultimately going to be, if you're smart about it and you can adapt, it's ultimately going to be for the better. Like, you're going to come out on top if you work hard and you understand what's happening and you use it to your advantage. But if you deny what's happening, or if you still want to stick to like the old ways of things or whatever, which I mean, again, we can get more specifics. I'm just saying, like, I don't think that that's going to be fantastic. And again, I think we're going to see, even in this episode of WP Town Hall here, kind of some instances of things that, we're gonna have conversations about what are changing, and it's gonna be very insightful to everybody in this industry, because definitely a lot of stuff happening. I'm just waiting for the notification from Kevin's X account here. I think I had my notification turned on. Oh, looks like we are in here. Let me listen. I am in the space. Not speaking yet. Let's just speak. Join as co-host. Accept. Yo, yo, yo. Oh, yo, yo, yo. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Awesome.
You don't sound like a robot this time either. So
Well, it
we'll have to
normally
get you started.
happens. It normally happens when people join for
Oh, when the
some
guest
reason.
comes on, that's
It's
right.
so
When there's
weird,
not a,
dude. It's so weird.
we'll see. We'll see. We got Dougster in the house. What's up, D123?
What up? What up?
Waiting on the man of the hour to come in. And I don't. Do you start your stream ahead of time? I don't start my stream until we're like ready to go.
I normally start it just because I like to talk to the fine people, give them a little briefing. So I started like 5 minutes
Okay.
ago.
Okay. Let's get Mike in here. I see him in the list now. Let's invite him to speak.
There it is.
We got Doug in the speaker pool already, which is fantastic. Just hang in there, Doug. We'll get to you. We'll get to you.
Once again, I'm seeing no listeners. That's
Oh,
lovely.
I do. Yeah, the robot started. The
Yeah.
robot.
Yeah, it started for
Robots.
you too as soon as you added someone.
Excellent.
But should be good on here. Do you see right now in this thing, in this UI, you see listeners? Is
I
that
do.
not?
Yeah, and I see Mike, and I've invited him to the speaker pool, but we'll
I'm
see. He said
wondering.
it's his first time doing next spaces.
Okay, I might refresh just to see if I can get him back, because I don't know. There's just nothing here. It's just me and you. So I might leave and
Oh,
come right back.
sure.
Okay, hang on one sec. Oh man, Twitter Spaces, man. I will tell you what. Let's see here. Boop, boop. I'm right back.
Sure.
Okay, hang on one sec.
Hang with us, everybody. We're just getting everybody situated, and then we'll start. Mike, if you can hear.
We are back. Nice. Cool, cool, cool. Oops.
We just gotta get Mike in the speaker pool, and we're ready to go.
Yeah.
Are
Nice.
you on? Are you on DMs with him? Just in case he's reaching out for tech support purposes.
He did hit me up. Yeah, I just told him to join, and then might have a situation like Chris did. I have no idea. Spaces, man. We gotta.
Oh, hello, hello.
There he is.
Boom.
Boom.
All right.
All right. So, I mentioned this is my first time on one of these. So, is it right that you have to do this on your phone?
No, you can be on your computer too.
Oh, you can. Okay, I
Yeah,
couldn't
you can
figure
be on
out
your computer.
how to do it on there. But if y'all can hear me all right. I won't have my good mic, but
I think it's good enough. Is it good enough, Mark?
Definitely. Happy to have you,
Okay.
Mike.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and start my stream, and then I'll do my intro, and we'll just be off to the races, so hang tight. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of WP Town Hall. This is the show that drops you deep into the heart of pivotal debates shaping the WordPress ecosystem. It's a unique format. You don't just listen like a regular podcast. You actually get to participate in the conversation on X Spaces. If you're not on X Spaces, if you're listening to this after the fact, obviously you only listen. But the goal is to plan ahead, right? We have wptownhall.show where every upcoming show is available. The link to join is available at wptownhall.show. Once you're in the X Spaces room, a lot of you are right now, all you have to do is, what does it say at the bottom of the app? Is it raise your hand to speak? Is it request to speak? There's some sort of button like that. Mark, is that correct?
I think it's request to speak. A little microphone, and then we'll get notified, and then we'll bring you in.
Yeah, so we would like you, and you could jump into the speaker pool at any point. That lets us know that you're like, when we get to the segment where we bring on, listeners, you're ready to go. You're ready to go. We can just, we don't have to mess with any tech, okay? Because we're being honest, the X Spaces app, it's not the best UX, it's not the best UI, it's not the best experience in general. So the faster you get into the speaker pool, the better. We have Mike McAlister as our main guest today. He is the developer of the Ollie theme for WordPress. And we're going to be talking about the future of web design, maybe a little bit of a debate style going on. We'll see how this plays out. But Mike, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. I know you have Ollie. What got you into all of this? And then whatever you would like to say to introduce yourself, floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Longtime listener of the various things you guys do. So I've been in WordPress a long time. I don't even know how long, over probably about 15 years total. And at one point I started making WordPress themes as products. I did the same thing a lot of people do. They start building things for clients, and then you move into products. And so over the years, I've had various theme companies, plugin companies. Some of those have been acquired and moved on to other things. And now I'm working on the Ollie block theme, as you mentioned, and also Ollie Pro, which is kind of like combined with Ollie is a kind of a design system and design library for full site editing, Gutenberg, and kind of native modern WordPress, whatever we're calling it. It's kind of a designed library based on all of that. So that's what I'm doing now, and it's been going great.
Sweet. So do you have is it mainly a design background and then you got into dev, or vice versa? What's your history there?
Yeah, I've always been a designer. It was kind of what I started out as in high school and kind of into my 20s and everything. So I've always been a designer, and then at some point, after being asked so many times by clients, "Hey, can you build this website too?" I was like, "Okay, well, I gotta figure this out." So I got into development. Um, and then from there, it was just developing as a means to build. I wanted to bring my things to life. At the time, I didn't have a partner to help develop, so I just started developing. So yeah, and it was low stakes stuff with themes, easy PHP, jQuery, and things like that. And then over the years, started doing more JavaScript, more React, and now with WordPress where it is, kind of in the crosshairs of everything. Um, I code a lot of different things, a lot more React these days than anything else, probably.
Cool. All right, so let me set the stage for our topic today. I did a little X Spaces, like a casual X Spaces a while back. Brian Gardner was the host of that. We were talking about some various concepts related to, does WordPress need themes? And you ended up doing a response video to that after the fact. And late in the response video, you mentioned that you are migrating more towards the no-code side of things. And you were bringing up the fact that, okay, Kevin's got, his workflow, and it's more BIM classes and maybe a more traditional approach. And you used to be that way. You're trending more toward no code. So two things, I guess. I'm going to invite you to maybe expand on that a little bit, or just reiterate it if you want to, or just give your thoughts around that. Do you still feel that way today? And then we'll go off of that.
Yeah, that's this whole topic is incredibly interesting to me, and I think in WordPress we feel there's so many different personas of people and where they're at with development. There's the old classic developers, there's the DIYers, there's the tinkerers, there's the no coders, there's the person who doesn't know anything about it and just kind of like cobbles together a website. And, their level of development and that they're exposed to is entirely dependent on how they got into WordPress and what product they onboarded with and everything else. So, I'm constantly thinking about that because with Ollie or just having any product in the theme space or in the WordPress space, you're exposed to all these people. So you see them all, and I talk to them all in support. So, it's really interesting to see where everyone's at. Now, personally, for me, I think after just building websites every single possible way that I have over the years, from literally way back in the just HTML, Notepad days, all the way through the WordPress PHP era, and then JavaScript and React, and uh, I think when the block editor and then the site editor came to WordPress, I think for me, I felt like it just made a lot of sense, to me, where I was like, I am kind of tired of building websites with all of this complexity and just this dependencies. And I just was personally ready for something else. Now, WordPress, they're still working out some kinks. It's not the smoothest, most intuitive experience, but I think it's arcing towards where the wider web is going, where it's, to borrow a phrase, like democratizing, not publishing, but like websites for people. It's bringing the stakes a lot lower for people, and for me, that aligns with where I'm at, and that's why I decided, to kind of double down and build Ollie in the full site editing space. Was 'cause it's kind of a gamble on that. It feels like in this kind of, we're edging towards no code, low code space. I feel like I can make an experience in that kind of sandbox that aligns with that and kind of helps people get there. So for me, I do feel like that is where the web's going, and that's kind of where my personal experience is going. Whether everyone comes with us, that's going to be a good question.
Okay. Mark, this could go in a bunch of different directions. I feel like I'll let you guide this ship, maybe.
Okay. Okay. Well, I appreciate that, Kevin. I'm gonna start.
I was thinking in very specific directions, but I'm curious as to where you're gonna take this.
All right. Well, I'm gonna deviate slightly for a second because I have to ask Mike this question because I watched that video. Are you actually an astronaut, Mike? Because I did hear you say that in there. Is that are you training? Is that something past life or?
I am. Yes, I have been to space, and I'm actually just here temporarily. I'm just like doing stuff between missions, so I figured I'd
That's
like
dope.
dip down and do some
That's
WordPress
dope.
stuff.
That is dope. Well, we're happy to have you and honored to be in your presence here.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So on a more slightly more serious note here, we got I think the holistic thing, and again, I know Kevin has a bunch of different directions that we can go here. I think kind of the main thing for me is I've explored this heavily. I've watched, Kevin's content, your content, like so many other people's like stuff and everything that everybody's doing from the product space. And I feel like we live in this WordPress bubble sometimes, and a lot of times we look out at the other products that are maybe touching more of like a less of a they're lessly designed for like the typical what we would consider maybe like a freelancer agency owner in WordPress, like that archetype. They're more for like even like a business owner to handle, or like a just like a hobbyist type freelancer thing, like all the other platforms like Squarespace, the Wix and all that. My question is, I think there's a line that you've stated, and I think if we could define that further, I think it would be helpful, is the idea of like developer controlling everything environment that we've lived in and that exists. Like, what does that ultimately mean to you in practicality? And like, are you saying you're building tools with that in mind, and like you kind of like see Ollie and maybe other things that you build in the future and stuff like that in that realm? Do you think that's where we're headed? Do you think if I could summarize, do you think that the average person, like it's getting easier to build websites and the average person doesn't want to deal with all the ins and outs? Do you think that archetype of people is growing?
It's a good question, and like full disclosure, I don't know the agency space super well, so I can't speak to like where their what their arc
Mm-hmm.
is. But I can speculate just being adjacent and having a product that agencies are using, and
Sure.
that I uh a few things. One, I do think the stakes are a lot lower for websites these days, in that it used to be you kind of lock things up for a client so they couldn't break it and give them just enough access to kind of get in there. But I think with what we're seeing with kind of the customization era of websites, everyone wants to change everything, and I think even maybe clients want a little more of that. Maybe again, that would be a guess. I don't know. But with the tools where they're at, you can give clients more access because if they bust it, it's so easy to roll it back these days. Everything's backed up and everything's on revisions, and not just in WordPress and in other platforms as well. And I think it's just a lot. We don't need as much handholding. It's not as of a critical process to update a website or let them get in there and break a template if they want. It's like whatever. We'll just fix it. More billable hours for us. Well, whatever. So there's that, and I just think yeah, in terms of like if that's the archetype for inside there, I guess I couldn't speak to that entirely. I don't know that space, but if I was a agency and doing that, I would be personally looking at ways of like how can we simplify this whole thing. Let's look at how we've been doing things as an agency for so long and all these tools we've had and the plugins and all these different things we've had to plug into WordPress to kind of make it do the agency thing we want to do. I would be doing an audit of that and saying, can we simplify this down? Can we get rid of a lot of this tech debt? And can we maybe go lighter? And every project that we do, can we make it a little lighter and more replicatable? And can we do that? So if I was in that space, I would be trying to figure out if we can lean into that. If not, if it's not ready, that's fine. But I would be wanting to go towards that.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm gonna kick it back to Kevin in a second, but I'm so glad you gave us that context, Mike, because I think there's a slightly more of a meta thing. I'm sometimes a meta guy, and there's a little bit more of a meta thing going on here that we don't ask enough when we have these types of conversations, and I wish we did more. But you provided it. Is that you gave your background obviously from designer to developer, and essentially like kind of self-taught dev, right? Is that kind of what I heard?
Hmm.
Okay, and
Yeah, for
then
sure.
and the context of that, if I'm getting it right, like freelance designer, like freelance developer and everything like that, building your own products now, obviously like successful there, not specifically in the agency realm though, just kind of around it, right?
Yep,
So
that's right.
so that's super important context because the way that Kevin's going to listen to this, or maybe potentially me, like we're going to hear everything that we're saying in a different light, and I think we need to all like remember that as we're kind of processing it, which I think is part of the
Hmm.
beautiful part from these perspectives. So so okay, and the last question that I have to kind of wrap up, just like again the perspective piece, is with Ollie specifically, what you're building now, the the theme for WordPress. Are you in your marketing? I haven't looked at every single marketing piece. Are you mainly marketing to agencies to then use as like a solution for those clients that kind of want that type of experience, or I guess is Ollie a product that we'll call it more of like an average WordPress consumer would purchase? Like, I don't know if you don't have to necessarily give us the split on that, but like, what's that
Hmm.
typically look like? Because those are pretty much the people that you're probably dealing directly with, most of the time, right? So what's that
Yeah.
look like?
Yeah, it's definitely, we point it towards the more casual, the maybe the freelance WordPress, the DIYer, but there's also some more like long-term WordPress devs that use it. That was the idea, like when we launched it. It was like, okay, full site editing is kind of leaning more into that area. So Ollie inherently does too. It has to. That's kind of it. The thing that surprised us though is when we launched Ollie, because I worked at WP Engine for a long time, 4 or 5 years. They do a lot of agency stuff, and so I talked to a ton of agencies in that time, and, you learn that they don't love to switch tools. It's expensive, it's time consuming. They like to, like, find their workflow, find their tools, and they kinda stick with it, and that's, makes a ton of sense. So when we launched Ollie, Patrick and I were both surprised that we had agencies reaching out and saying, "Your pricing plans don't work for us as agencies." And we were sitting there like, "Well, shit, we didn't have you in mind, okay? So, we'll make some adjustments." And, we kind of reworked our pricing to be more friendly towards the agency crowd. So that we have found that, like, there are agencies who are, I think a lot of people see the writing on the wall. Again, if you're in an agency right now and you're kind of seeing all these other tools pop up around you outside of WordPress, and you see WordPress kind of leaning more into full site editing, all that other stuff, you might think, okay, this is to some degree maybe inevitable. And so we should at least dig in a little bit, see where it's going, get some tools, see, figure it out, and then we can decide whether we want to build around that or if we maybe go a different direction. So we did have people, several different agencies are currently using it now and building a bunch of sites with it. I still wouldn't say that they're ready for Ollie as like a focus product where that's what they build around yet. But I would say it's encouraging and surprising from our end that we did get that initial buy-in. So yeah, definitely more of the individual, but yeah, we'll see where it goes.
Gotcha. Cool. Kevin, what do you got?
So there's two kind of premises here that I guess I want to explore. You mentioned that if you were in the agency space, you'd be looking for ways to simplify things. That you got tired of building sites with a lot of complexity and so on and so forth. I guess my first question would be, isn't that exactly what Elementor and Divi and Gutenberg and Beaver and all of these builders, isn't that exactly what they did? They came into the space saying, man, web design's really complicated. Like we got to make this easier. And so they came up with proprietary names for everything. They ditched the complexity of a class system. They did all these steps they added drag and drop and yada yada yada, and the builder handles interactions for you, and you don't really have that was the march, the original march towards first low code and then eventually no code. And one is, do you agree that's what was already done? And two, do you agree, because my argument has been that's been an absolute disaster. And so I think that a lot of the major problems have come from that mission to kind of dumb everything down and go more toward and as close as possible to a no code solution.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, they've definitely, those tools were introduced to reduce complexity, quote unquote, and abstract away that part of website building and just get you to like the fun and pretty stuff and like put the stuff in your face. Now their way of getting there, full of all kinds of shortcuts and questionable code and design standards and everything. To some degree, I guess that's inevitable. Um, I'm curious what your thoughts are on like what is the big problem there? Is it code quality? Is it what is the problem with kind of going towards no code, maybe as a default way of building websites, and then relying on code-based websites for things that you like really need to, serious high stakes things, enterprise, etc.
Yeah. Um, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, actually. Is it a code quality issue? No, it's not. It's not sitting around going, well, I mean, look how messy that code is.
Hmm.
If there's like no implications of that. I mean, messy code is a big fundamental problem in a bunch of different ways. But from the developer's perspective, the biggest problem that it creates is inspection nightmares. I mean, if you have to go to the website to change things or to update styling, and you can't figure out where the styling is even coming from or what DOM element it's even applied to, it's a lot of absolute hunting, right? It
Hmm.
makes my life very, very difficult. So it's not like well, I just like clean code, like that kind of, that's not the attitude.
Mhm.
It's a mess. It's an absolute mess when we actually have to dig in and figure out what's happening on the website. But that's just, that I would say is not even the biggest problem. The problems that I harp on all the time. Well, one, there's just a craftsmanship issue, and
Mhm.
I'm actually planning on doing a video on this. But when we bought a townhouse in Florida, and we did a walkthrough, and I found 25 different things that was just like, that's just fucking lazy. Like, just being
Yeah.
lazy. Right? And it's just, and it's obviously not like, it's almost like, did this person even know what they were doing when they did this? And then I get in the Facebook group for the entire community, and it turns out, man, a lot of people are complaining about the same kinds of stuff. And the general narrative becomes like, what happened to craftsmanship? Like, where did craftsmanship? Nobody likes to use these products that are not built well, and
Yeah.
not designed well, and not put together by people that actually know what they're doing. Nobody enjoys that. But for some reason in web design, we have a bunch of people saying, it's not really a problem. I mean, you don't really have to know what you're doing. You just do it any way you want. There's no such thing as craftsmanship. And so we don't accept a lack of craftsmanship in every other aspect of our life, but suddenly in web design, a lack of craftsmanship is just totally okay because we're democratizing publishing, and on and on and on. So like, that's a whole rabbit hole
Mhm.
that we could go down for sure. But again, going back to a developer picking up where a project left off, I can't tell you how many times I will get a digital knock on my door from a client who's saying, hey, and of course, I'm not in the agency space anymore, but this was just repeated. It was just constant. Where, hey, they're not managing my site anymore. Like, I need you to take it over. And I go in, I'm like, hey, let me have a look. I go in. I mean, it is an absolute atrocity the way that this is
Mhm.
put together. And if they're asking me to do, can you do XYZ? And it's like, I'm sorry, like, no, this would be an absolute, just it has to be rebuilt. It has to, just to maintain it. So I use two words constantly. It's scalability and maintainability of websites. That if a client comes to you and says, well, we just need a simple brochure site right now, you can't just build them a simple brochure site. You have to build with scalability and maintainability in mind. If you truly believe that, one, this client has a future, and that, two, you are going to help them realize this future. Because if I'm going to build something and my goal is to make my client more successful, I have to know that, okay, when that success starts to come, they are going to reinvest in this platform. They are going to reinvest in me. Okay, well, phase 2 has to happen. Phase 3 has to happen. We're going to get more aggressive. We're going to do more things with this website. So it has to be able to scale. We have to be able to build easily on what we've already built. And then we have to be able to maintain it really, really easily and efficiently. And if we can't do those things, then we have failed as developers. And that's really where I said a minute ago, like Element or Divi, Gutenberg, all of these, they are disasters when it comes to maintainability and scalability. Everybody wants to talk about getting to point A, but not talk about, well, what about point B, C, D, E, F, G, and on into the future? Like, everybody's in a rate. How easy can we get them to just put the thing together? But there's never any talk about, what about scaling it? What about maintaining it? And that's where the professionalism comes in. Okay. And so that's where I see it lacking in all of these different platforms. And I see a lot of people not caring that it's lacking in those areas. And that's where I start to raise my eyebrows a little bit.
Yeah, it seems like all of the we'll just call them like no code tools here, but I'm talking about Elementor and Debian and all these things. The one of the biggest problems with WordPress is like the pluggability and how you can get in there and make it do whatever you want. And so you can have the best intentions in mind, but two, three developers get on there, they plug all this stuff in, they change things, like you know, there's the only like way to bulletproof a site, and maybe that's kind of your point is like hard coding it to some degree, and following coding standards that the next developer can pick up and go with. The problem with that is if we continue to move further away from that, it's going to be harder to convince people to keep building websites that way, and there's going to have to be some kind of acceptance of, well, this is just how we build websites now, and hopefully the tools that are built in modern days now these days take that into consideration, and they're building more robust websites by the end of it. And I think, unfortunately, you kind of need more guardrails for less trouble. The more guardrails you take away, the more the wild the website gets, and then the more maintainable and scalable it is. So, yeah, there's gonna have to be some kind of baseline like compromise about the tool and the output and like what we all accept. I'm glad you mentioned something about craftsmanship though, because that's something that's really on my mind lately with everyone talking about AI and jumping into AI this and that. It's like, don't get me wrong, I like AI, use it, but like thinking that these people are saying like, oh, design is over, oh, development's over. The baseline experience right now on most websites is terrible. And we've had humans working on it, and we still can't get that right. To think that the AI is going to somehow make that part better, it's not. We have to
Yeah.
fix the baseline experience on all these tools and all the websites before we like go jumping and asking the robots to do it. So yeah, there's a huge part of craftsmanship there, and that's one of the things that we focus on with Ollie is that, and I think it's you kind of get the idea with frames and ACSS is that there's a certain degree of like, let me just help you design this. So I'm going to give you the best possible chance of getting off the ground.
Yeah.
And you can focus on the content and other things and kind of giving them the best chance of craftsmanship out the gate.
Yeah, and I'm sure you have a design background, so there's a bunch of different, let's call them standards of craftsmanship that you feel that should be in design. And I think you would agree that, hey, not everybody, like you can't just grab some rando. Ronnie Rando is like my favorite character to talk about. Like Ronnie, you can't grab Ronnie Rando off the street and be like, hey, design me this thing, Ronnie. Ronnie fuck it up. Ronnie just is not a designer. Okay. So, and it doesn't matter how much you dumb down the tools.
Yeah.
Ronnie ain't gonna design it. You can give him Canva all day. Ronnie's design is gonna look terrible. Let's just be honest, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
so you have these like craftsmanship standards in the design world. And I'm not a designer. I appreciate good design. I know good design from bad design, but I'm not a designer. I have craftsmanship standards in the dev world. And I think what we have to be careful of not doing, I think a lot of times devs try to throw out craftsmanship standards in design. And these are like the I do it all myself devs. We know the
Yeah.
dev, like I'm not a designer, but I'm still going to do it anyway. Okay. And that never works out. It never, I always tell them like, stay in your lane, know your lane, stay in your lane. Okay. And then we have to be careful for designers to not throw out the dev craftsmanship
Yeah.
because they're always rushing to like, oh, I know what it's supposed to look like. It doesn't matter what the code looks like. Let me just do it. Right. And they throw out all the craftsmanship on the dev side. And I think both areas of expertise need to respect the other's area of craftsmanship and not be so willing to just toss those aside. Now, going back to the platforms of like Elementor, Divi, Gutenberg, etc. And we talked about how they're trying to simplify, they're trying to make it easier for people. I said that that's really what has led to the disaster. I think it's all been based on this false premise that all of these tools were built around. And it is the premise that lay people can build websites, that Ronnie Rando should be able to build a website. And all we have to do is make the tool as easy as possible. And Ronnie will be able to get the job done. And I think that that is an absolute lie. I think it's a very easily provable falsehood. And I think if you design tools so that Ronnie can use them, and then all the tools that are available, like the market is flooded with these tools. These are the standard tool of today. Okay. And anybody that knows what they're doing and needs to get their work done essentially can't really get their work done. Can you build a site with Ollie? Yeah. Can you build a site in Gutenberg? Yeah. You can get to point A, but where there's still question marks around point B and C, the scalability and the maintainability side of things. But I think what you've done, what these tools have done, not you personally, but what these tools have done, the Elementors, the Divis, etc., is they have completely ruined the experience for anybody that knows what they're doing. And we say that about Gutenberg all the time. Like I can't use it. It doesn't speak the language of web design. It's totally proprietary. It does everything different. It just, anybody that knows what they're doing likely does not like the Gutenberg workflow, the block editor workflow, minus all the limitations that come with it. So do you agree or disagree with the premise that lay people can build websites? Can I go literally just get somebody off the street, some rando person, and put them in front of the block editor, or put them in front of Wix, or put them in front of Squarespace? These are all, I mean, Wix, their ads. I mean, you just watch their ads. Anybody can do it. Okay. Can I put somebody in front of Wix or the block editor? Because the block editor, I think, is trying to compete with Wix. And can they build a website? Or is the reality that the most they can do without going through the learning curve that so many people have to go through, is the most they can do maybe rearrange some things, change some copy, click a button or two to mess up the colors on the, because they don't know color theory. They're going to mess up the color. Okay, so they can click a couple buttons to switch up some colors. They're not building sites, though. Well, we can't call that building sites. They're glorified editors, and that's the max they can do. That's my argument. What's yours?
In my experience, it is very difficult for an average person to build a website on any of these platforms. And I've used all of them, and I've sat next to people who are using them. I do a good amount of free websites for nonprofits, and I kind of watch them deal with various things, and Wix and Squarespace and other platforms
That's
I've
well
never
said,
even
Mark.
heard
That's
of.
well said.
Never even heard of, and so it's very difficult. And I think you have a good point about, like, you can't you don't want to compromise the tool in pursuit of that. Instead, you can accommodate that experience, um, but not at the sake of the developer experience, or even the average DIYer experience who can build a website. They maybe are more leaning into the tools instead of the code, but they can still put together a decent website. These people, there's a thriving industry around that. But no, I would agree that the average person has a very difficult time even figuring out where to go to get a website, or even how to get a blog going, or do they need a blog? Like, it's very difficult for them.
Okay, so there's a second aspect to this too, and blogging maybe is kind of a different boat. But I talk all the time about building websites of consequence, and what that means is the website has an end goal and is able to achieve that end goal. And if you have a goal, let's say, of representing a business really well, getting traffic that you otherwise were not getting people to convert to an offer that you wanted to put in front of them. These are the traditional business goals. I want to get more leads. I want to get more sales. I want to get more eyeballs. I want to get more eardrums. I want to grow my business. I want to use this website to grow my business. Well, those are real consequences. And you're either going to realize those consequences or you're going to fail to realize those consequences. And when we take this approach of, well, Ronnie Rando is now a business owner, and Ronnie Rando, the business owner, should be able to build his own website. We should build a platform that empowers Ronnie Rando to build his own website. To me, that's like lawyers and the justice system going, we should make it really easy for Ronnie Rando to represent himself in every legal case that he encounters. And I think everybody would say, no, that's a terrible idea. That's a really, really bad idea. Like, there's a famous line that, like, you have a fool, like, for a lawyer if you represent yourself. Okay. And I would argue that if you have a real business and you want real consequential outcomes, and your business relies on you achieving these things, and you have employees and they rely on you continuing to be able to write paychecks and on and on and on, that you should hire experts who know what they're doing, not just on design, not just on dev, but on the entire picture. The entire picture of how do we make a successful website so that you have and your business has the highest chance of success. Don't put that in your own hands unless you absolutely know what you're doing. You're not a designer, you're not a dev, you're not a copywriter, you don't do internet marketing, you don't know SEO, you don't know. I could go down the list of all the things, all the ways in which Ronnie Rando is unqualified to build his own website. So why is the premise that we should empower him to do so? Shouldn't we just tell him the truth? Hey, this is complicated stuff. You should hire somebody and pay them good money to do this stuff to ensure you get the outcome that you're wanting. I feel like we're just lying to people, and we're not doing so. The number one rule of like an agency is to do what's in the best interest of the client. And step number one in that process is don't do it yourself. If I'm advising a client, that would be the number one thing, is because I want what's in their best interest, and them doing it themselves is not in their best interest. Yet we have all these tools saying, no, we have to democratize this. We have to put this in everybody. Every lay person should be able to do this for themselves. That to me is an astronomical, like, just miscalculation.
Yeah, there's a lot of great points there. I think, it's all smoke and mirrors and marketing of all of these platforms to say you can get in here and do it, and then they do it, and then they can't deliver. And I think that it's not there's a correlation between that and then every small business website you visit that is just like absolute garbage because it's they don't have a lot of money to get in there and pay a few experts to do it, so they kind of go their own way, and then they end up with like a Facebook page that has hours that are like way out of date and everything else. It's unfortunate. If you want to build something that is like for the lay people, I think like I said, you need to build a tool that is just like a website builder that is not anything like website builder. You just get in there, you take a layout, you could only change the text and you hit a button and then you get like the thing. That is like if you want a layperson to do that, you have to take all of the variables out of it and just make it so it's like bulletproof. But that's not WordPress, and that's not any of these platforms that are infinitely complex in comparison. So yeah, it's tough, and I don't see in Ollie. Like I said, I talk to every customer that writes a support question. I don't see average people in there. I don't see somebody who's like, "Hey, I'm trying to make this for my small business. I can't figure it out." Like the people I'm seeing are people who are making it for other people. Um, so there's something to that. I mean, and WordPress itself, just the way it's designed, does a pretty good job of filtering out lay people, just because it's so hard to go from 0 to even a WordPress install for
Yeah.
most people that it filters out so many people, and that's why they end
Yeah.
up going to these other platforms.
Well, yeah, well, that's a great point, because that's it's another big disconnect that I've talked about before, is like we're going to completely design and tool Gutenberg to be used by anybody on a .org system that they already need to have picked out a host. They already have needed to,
Yeah.
one click install. They had to already go through a bunch of not layman steps to get to the layman friendly builder. Like, that's just a magnificent disconnect. To which Matt would say, well, they could just sign up at WordPress.com. But like,
Well,
yeah,
even if you do that, even if you sign up at WordPress.com, say you do that, you're thrown into WP admin,
correct.
and you're
Yeah,
like, oh, okay, what is this thing? And then it looks different than the WordPress.org version,
yeah,
because they have that Calypso interface or whatever they have, whatever it's called. So you're already thrown into a world of hurt just because WordPress admin is like, what is this thing? There's like these old and new worlds colliding together, and it's never been historically super intuitive to get started. The learning curve is pretty big. So yeah, I mean, that's where these other platforms will just continue to eat our lunch, is because, well, first of all, they don't have to serve almost a billion websites, so that they can move a lot quicker. They can pivot. They can build a thing specifically for the audience, and if enough people ask, they just get in there and they fix it and change it and ship it. Um, we do have this massive debt of people and content and everything else to worry about, and that's kind of why WordPress, I think, is moving particularly slow to get to where we need to be. And it's yeah, you can feel it stress testing for sure.
yeah. Okay, I think we should, Mark. We should probably start to turn this over to like let some people in the speaker pool come on in. I know Jackson is he's lighting me up on in my YouTube in the chat about coming on. So we'll bring him on in just a second. To recap my thoughts, my positions. I do not believe that the future of web design is no code. I believe that lay people will use AI heavily to get them to. These are the cheap lay people, and I wouldn't recommend that they do this, but they are going to do this. There's no denying the reality that they will start to use AI platforms to get their website off the ground, so to speak. And they will make concessions. It's going to be people that are okay with not being in full control of the entire thing. Like they're just going to have to make concessions like, I can't get it to do what I want, or whatever. It's free or it's $9.99 or whatever. It's super cheap. It's super easy. And so what I have cautioned in the developer space is if your level of work, and this goes back to craftsmanship, this goes back to actual knowledge and skill, this goes back to being a consultant and not a pixel pusher. If you are doing bottom of the barrel work with a bottom of the barrel offer at bottom of the barrel prices, you are going to be the first one to be replaced. AI will absolutely and totally replace you. You have no business being here. You're not doing anything of value that AI can't do. And so if a developer self-identifies as like, oh shit, that's me right now. I think that's me. You need to get your shit together and you need to start increasing your level of craftsmanship. You need to increase your understanding of how marketing works on the internet and how all these pieces get put together. And you have to start doing things that AI can't currently do for clients and clients with real money, by the way, who are looking for real experts. If you want to stick around, if you want to have longevity in this space, you need to move away from low code tools. You need to move away from these like, anybody can do it, because that's what the AI is going to do. And you need to move towards professional tools, professional workflow, and professional craftsmanship, because that's all that's going to be left. When people can't get AI, man, it just won't do what I want it to do. I need a professional. That's when they're going to turn to the professionals using professional tools who can still read. Now, the professional and the professional tool, and this is how we're crafting Etch, should be AI empowered. It should, the developer should have to write every single line by hand, right? But they can get it to help where they want it to help. It's not doing it for them. It's just being a intelligent assistant, and it's helping with efficiency. But I think those are going to be the two camps. And I think that the race to simplification of the tools for lay people has been insanely destructive. I think that they can't accomplish the goal, no matter how much they dumb it down. And we see this with Gutenberg. Gutenberg is the quintessential dumbed down interface. It can't get any more dumbed down unless it's pure AI. It can't get any more dumbed down, in my opinion, than the block editor already is. And it's failed. It's still, you can't put a layperson in front of it. They still can't do anything. That was a failed premise, a failed mission. All of the apps and tools that tried to go that route are complete disasters, in my opinion. And the other side of that is, even if they could make it work, they shouldn't, because it puts the authoring of these websites into the hands of the people who don't know how to make them successful. So at best, they can get a design and layout on a page and then watch their business fail because they don't know how to do anything else around that. All of the stuff that actually makes a website successful, they still don't know how to do any of that stuff. So we've empowered them to essentially walk off the edge of a cliff and go bankrupt. So those are all of my, I guess, arguments rolled into one. Mark, do you want to inject anything before we bring on some speakers here?
No, I mean, a lot of good thoughts there, a lot of different perspectives. I'm excited to hear from Jackson and the rest of our guests here, because I do think there's some keen perspectives out there. So, yeah, I think Jackson, I know you had a point in the middle there. If you want to head, we'll go Jackson, Doug, and then Chris, I think. Yep.
Yeah.
Just check it. Can you hear me at all?
Yep.
You can, yes.
Looks good. Yep.
Hell, Jesus, that's pretty cool, because I'm literally on a headset, just diving in whilst cooking. Love these shows, love these debates, But I wanted to just pick up on a few things that have sort of been fairly apparent during the whole discussion, specifically most of which has been coming from you, dear Kevin, which is about this sort of like, we all know that Gutenberg is lacking. You know, we kind of all know that, right? But for about 2 or even 3 years, from the first quickly release, there's been ways to make it better. You've built products that make it better. Obviously, that's through bricks, etc. But my point being is that it isn't. You know, I said this on a call. Actually, you were there, Mark, a few months ago. Isn't WordPress just always been just the starting point, and all the plugins and the frameworks and the way that you can just pluck things out of the magic plugin repository? Isn't this just how it's always worked? And why is it different now than it was before, post Gutenberg? Is what I'm saying.
Is that for me? Is that for anybody?
Everyone's invited.
I guess I'll start. Yeah, you're right. That WordPress provides a base layer, and you have a bunch of plugins which add a lot of functionality. Mm-hmm. My argument has been, now, you know, if your goal is to attract, so this is the conflict in mission. The mission is stated as it's for everyone, and we want to democratize publishing, and we want everybody to use it. That's your stated mission. You can't also make people install 50 plugins, because every plugin requires a rabbit hole of investigation. Well,
absolutely, absolutely. I get all of that. I mean, like, I think there's a lot lacking, you know, in a core install of WordPress.
Okay,
that you might get with a you know, like a Squarespace or a Wix as low performance and technology levels and user experience and functionality goes. You know,
I just wanted to point that out, because I don't think everybody has put those dots together that might be listening. You know, they haven't seen that that's a conflict of interest with the main mission. But I'll say,
so what is the main mission, Kevin? What is the main mission?
They need to decide what the main mission is. I've said before.
But what is it for you? That's what I'm saying. It's like, what do you think it should be?
So WordPress.org is a technical platform. It requires technical knowledge, prerequisites, in order to even get an instance established on the internet. Okay, so if we're recognizing that this is kind of a technical platform, there is a learning curve just to get going, just to press go, right?
Yeah. I mean, but hasn't that? But my opening point was, hasn't that always been the same?
Sure, but it's
like, we got 2015 film, 2015 theme, you know, and you just said, oh, like, I've got a WordPress site, I'm on some sort of $2 a month platform.
Here's the thing. No, I get it.
Well, let me finish. Let me finish. Because I'm saying that it's always been that way, and because now we're in a position where the web has advanced exponentially.
Correct.
But it's still only ever been, in my humble opinion, has only ever been a starting point. And yes, I totally agree with you on so much of your views, in respect to, like, it's not a pick up and play thing. But then let's talk about what your what your direction is, what your position is within WordPress. You're not a pick up and play guy. I've got products, and I'm going for the knowledge and skill workers within WordPress space. And those aren't the people that might want to pick up and play. And by the way, I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that we are in a position where you can pick up and play WordPress. But all I'm saying is that we never have been.
Correct. The mission has been wrong from the get-go with .org. Okay, with .org. .org is a professional platform and should have been tailored for professional use. And if Matt had a grand mission of democratizing publishing and make it available to everybody, that is what .com should have been used for. Okay.
Well, I guess the whole thing has been so confused by org and com, like forever.
Correct.
You know, like
now,
the whole.
now we know,
if you Google a plugin and you get like .com and suddenly you're on I mean, we all know that scenario. I mean, we all know it well.
Yes, the failure of .org comes from the mission of everybody should be able to use it. It's a technical platform that everybody should be able to use. That right there is the contradiction. But I've also said, hold on, I've also said from the beginning, if you were going to say, Kevin, how do you ensure that your software product is going to fail? How do you ensure that your product is going to fail?
Sorry, who's saying this? You or me? Look, I'm not saying this to you, by the way.
If you say I'm going to design it for everyone, it is going to fail.
Oh yeah, so as a concept, yeah. Well, I mean, it's impossible. It's like communism, essentially. No disrespect to any socialist brothers out there, but it's never been proved to work that where there's one rule fits all. It's never worked. Has it not?
I think I appreciate where Jackson is coming from in that I think for all of the faults I think we have with Gutenberg and kind of for me it's a lack of kind of focus and vision on modern day WordPress as a product instead of a platform. It's like we talk about it as a platform a lot, and that's great. There's like a lot of philosophies that come with that, and the philosophies of open source that have to be thoughtfully stewarded. But I'm at this point in my career and as a product maker, I want to look at WordPress as a product. And if you look at it as a product, you start to see, oh, we're not going in the right direction as a product, because what's the vision? Who is it for? What about all these little details that we're kind of leaving out there? It changes the way you look at it. But I think in the same way, like Jackson's saying, WordPress as a baseline kind of entity that you can take and turn into whatever you want, I think is still incredibly powerful. And I'm still bullish on that. I'm just waiting for people to kind of wake up and look what is available to them in modern day WordPress to build upon. If you just take the baseline experience and you say, this is WordPress and this is all there is, you might be underwhelmed. But if you think about, okay, if this is a platform that I can build a vertical into, or I can use this as a platform to springboard an app for a very specific use case, a niche or whatever, there's all kinds of opportunity. But we have this just delay of people. Maybe they've already lost interest and they've moved on from WordPress. And now that we have all this stuff, all this more powerful APIs, we have visual builders that you can do more than just build websites with. There's a lot you can do, but we're just not seeing a ton of creative use case for it. And it takes investment and time and everything else, and that's another reason why. But I think there's a lot of potential. We're just not seeing it on the ground level, and we're also not really seeing it encouraged kind of on the platform level. We're not really talking about and encouraging people to build and show them how and do. We're just not doing that right now. So that's, I think, a lot of reasons why. But
just one.
Let's bring on. Yeah, go ahead.
Just one quick nuanced point to that, because you've got a lot of great points there on that in that segment there, Mike. When I was spending the last year and a half, talking to so many people in this industry, really getting into the community aspect and like almost the history and understanding of WordPress super deeply, one of the things that I was constantly met with by people closer to core was that it's a project, not a product. And while I understand that, and there's a little bit of a, like a line in the sand between .com and .org, and that's kind of like the product side with hosting, all that sort of stuff. Totally get all that, how it kind of that apparatus is shaped there. I do think that one thing that's kind of like faltered and this is more of an observation, not a criticism, because I don't have a complete solution to this, is that kind of what you're saying there, Mike, and to say it a different way, is that And I want to do more of this. I think we should probably layer some of this into WP Town Hall because I made recent videos about this. We're all in this camp. Like, we see it from the inside, but I think we're always like speculating what people on the outside think. And sometimes those are right. Sometimes they might be a little incorrect. One specific anecdotal example is I'm talking to a buddy of mine, 6 months ago, and I tell him that I make WordPress videos, like I'm in the WordPress community, and they're like, "Isn't WordPress dead?" Now, I'm not saying that's indicative of everyone, but I'm saying is that if you're a part of a platform, and we know that not to be the case, but the actual average person might think that, what happens if that person like starts a business and they already have that preconceived notion? It's just, what I'm saying is, when we don't treat the thing sort of like a product, because it's been treated like a project, then I think that those types of things, when we don't think about the perception of our platform, product, project, whatever the hell you want to call it, to the average person, then I think that that could be detrimental if we completely forget that. And I think that it's not really any of our faults specifically. I'm just saying that I think that that is something that has plagued us, and that's part of the reason why we're here now, because the opportunity arose for all these other platforms to continue to with potentially a superior product in certain aspects, or at least a more finely tuned product, like Kevin was saying, to a particular audience rather than everyone. I think all of these things are just pieces of it. And moving forward, what I would love to see is more of a, and I think we might get it one way or another, is more concerted effort to actually express what WordPress is. And really, I honestly think the closest thing now, it's a platform, kind of like how you're alluding to there, Mike. It's like there's so much you can build atop of it. Yeah, maybe you don't like pieces of the core aspect of it, but there's so many good pieces and so many good people that have built great products atop of it, and that's really where the value is. And I think that has definitely gotten lost as all these other things have sprouted up. And I'm just hoping that I don't think we're too late. I don't think it's going anywhere, but I hope we're not too late in the sense of like that we can't pull some of that back and be like, go back to, I don't know what it was, 5-10 years ago or whatever, when it was the thing. But I think that everything we talk about all the time, that we have, WP Town Halls, stuff that Kevin talks about, stuff that other people talk about, it's really from that lens. It's like, we know that we have a really good platform here. How do we make it more understandable for a general person to know that and feel what we do when we get in here every day and we know what the capabilities are? I think that's kind of one way that I would summarize all that.
Yeah, my position is that we don't need to, like, I would abandon that mission completely. I would shift the mission. I mean, if you really believe in that, if you're like, I really want to democratize publishing and I want anybody to use it, okay, go do that with .com. Leave .org alone in terms of like the Gutenberg project being put into .org. You put a layman editor into a platform or a product that lay people don't really use. They can't even really get started with it all that well. The learning curve is magnificent. That's a huge disconnect. And in doing that, by the way, what is the consequence of that? 7 years of funding that could have gone into the CMS side of it, the UI side of it, the important side of it. Let's say that the important side of it did not go in to those parts. And now we have a decaying platform. Okay, that everybody is like, this sucks. Everybody's like, man, this place is falling down around us. So that had a consequence. This pursuing of this crazy mission that is already a failed mission from the get-go has now caused a decay in all of the important areas of the platform. And that's why I've said that this has been, it's all a leadership issue. It all goes back to, that's just poor leadership, poor insight into what should happen next, yada, yada, yada. Go do that stuff with .com. Protect the core aspects of WordPress so that the people doing real work, which are agencies and freelancers on WordPress.org, can continue doing their work to the highest degree and still love the platform and still appreciate the platform and still, by the way, do the very thing that they've done, which has caused all of the growth of WordPress. If people aren't aware, it's the millions of freelancers and agencies onboarding millions of clients and creating websites, people that didn't know what WordPress was. And the agency and freelancer says, we build on WordPress. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to put you on. And to that end, you will end up with users inside of WordPress, but these are not people who built their site. These are people who can be guided by those same agencies and freelancers into how they should be using the admin side of WordPress, which, by the way, would be fully modernized if they hadn't spent 7 years going down the wrong path. So the experience would be better for everybody if we had kept the focus correct. we went the wrong rabbit hole with the wrong focus, and now we are seeing the terrible, terrible results of that. I want to bring in Doug next. Doug, you there?
I am here. Testing
Wherever
1, 2,
you want
3.
to pick up, Doug, we can hear you. Wherever you want to pick up on that.
Oh man, so many points. This is a barn burner session. Thanks for this. Okay, number one, response to Jackson. Yes, WordPress is what it's always been, and that's to me the problem. It's not progressing. There's too much. Both feet are in the old camp, and the competitors, if you will, are progressing and redefining the options that the layman chooses from. And we all know it, we all see it, regardless of what area you're in. So yeah, I agree. It is what it's always been. So no code versus code environments. A little bit of my background is currently has to do with driving help desks, WP help desks in meetup groups. I personally co-host one a month, and my colleagues, my 4 other colleagues, also host them. Between all of us, there's probably 7 WordPress help desks live, getting our hands dirty, getting in the nitty gritty, not just referring people to help documents and such, but really getting involved in it. And so we're seeing people from all ends of WordPress, .com versus .org, and they don't even know it. Not just any specific theme, all themes, all environments. And so we're seeing quite a diversity coming, a diverse populace coming to us for help. And the no code versus code conversation comes up all the time. So I've been thinking about this for, seems like forever now. And I think I've written it down in a very short synopsis, which I'm going to read right now. And this also will give you insight of what I think the future is. So the success of a no-code environment is going to become directly related to how well it can address accessibility for the site visitor, such as accurate alt text, which is not easy. If any of you have used AI to generate alt text for your images, thinking you're gonna save some time, it's canned stuff. It doesn't relate to what you see in the image. You know, 2 different people can see an image and they focus on different aspects of the image, and that alt text needs to relate to what your mission is. So until AI can do that, we've got a problem. And so basically that means the no code environment needs to allow the dev to get in and address things, right? If it's alt text, if it's custom code or whatnot. I mean, how many of you have had people come to you asking you to modify a site? I need some custom code, or I need some customization on this site that they can't do in their dev environment, whatever theme they're using, whatever builder they're using, and you got to get in there and do it. So basically, 2 things need to get better for the no-code environment to be a smooth experience. Number 1, the dev environment must allow for the hands-on coder to address things. Or number 2, and here's the big point, the search engines need to place less weight on responsibility or responsive, excuse me, responsibly created websites. Yeah, not responsiveness, but responsibly created websites, i.e. Semantics, you know, proper use of H1, H2, H3, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because people in builders and in no-code environments, unless they're going to use an AI, which is smart enough to do it, they're using H1, H2 versus H3 for visual changes. They don't understand the semantics behind it. Therefore, you got a problem. So we already know the search engines are changing the way they look at our sites. And there's a lot of sites that are getting ranked that shouldn't be, you know, that are kind of a disaster. And there's, in my world, what I'm seeing, there's a crap ton of people that are just losing it. Everything's coming to an all stop. Their site's not generating what it used to for whatever reason. And so that's kind of a study in itself. But so those are the 2 things that I see. If a no-code environment, as defined right now, with our current AI tools, the current capability or lack of capability of AI, however you want to look at it, whether it's an AI dev environment or whether it's a hybrid environment, whatever it is, it needs to still allow the designer, developer, coder to address things. And number two, if that's not the case, search engine.
Did you guys lose Doug too, or just me?
I lost Doug.
Doug, we lost you. I don't know
Search
if it's
engines
a-
got to him.
There he is.
Oh no, Google heard him talking.
Big search cut him off.
You there, Doug? Doug. Test 1, 2, 3.
Somebody get a welfare check on that guy.
Yeah. All right, hold on. I'm gonna mute him in case because he may not know that we can. He might just come back talking. We're gonna get to Chris in just a second. I guess I'll throw, based on what Doug was saying, I'll throw this out there as well. Might as well. I mean, I messaged this to Mark yesterday. I think the term no code, we just stop using that term. As Doug just mentioned, that's insanely important for somebody to have access to the code at all times. Otherwise, you are at the complete whims of the limitations of whatever AI system you're using. So to me, the only safe approach to using AI in a development workflow is with a hybrid approach. And by the way, there isn't a page builder in WordPress right now that gives you access to the code. This is one of the fundamental premises of Etch, is that you always have access to the code. So even when we AI empower the Etch interface, it is a hybrid environment. You will always have access to the code. And that should be the number one standard of any platform. I would say that if a platform claims to be no code and prevents you from accessing the code, it is not a platform you should even begin to use. It's not safe. If you're building a website of consequence, again, if you're building if it's my mom and she's building her Bunko Club website, doesn't matter. It's not, there's no real consequence there. But if you're building a website of consequence that needs to be scaled and maintained, the idea that you would build it on a platform that doesn't give you access to the code, I just don't see any smart business making that kind of decision. Chris Latham, let's bring you into the discussion.
Awesome. Are you guys able to hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. Feels like one of those Zoom things. Is my mic on?
Yeah.
All right. I'm coming from a SEO side of things in terms of the web design, and I think it was something that Mike said earlier that I think has a great opportunity for the mainly small businesses and the solopreneurs who don't have $10,000 to pay for their first website. Like all their money literally has to go into marketing. And like I've dealt with clients who have bad experiences with WordPress, they don't want to touch WordPress, but then they go to like a Wix or Squarespace and they essentially just traded one problem for another. And on my side, coming in to do the SEO, whether it's including schema or optimizing pages or fixing some of the technical stuff, there's headaches on both ends with like Wix and Squarespace not being that flexible. But then the solopreneur with no $10,000 budget goes to somebody on Fiverr to get the job done, which is a hell in a handbasket of itself. But I think when Mike mentioned a platform or something set up where they just get a pre-built template, they change the color that matches the color styling, they just change the text, the image, because like the WordPress editor is overwhelming to many people who aren't familiar with it. Wix editor is as overwhelming, but the colors are nicer, so people kind of deal with it better. But looking at things for the small business and the solopreneur who doesn't have 10K yet, something that's potentially no code, but it has that scalability to then upgrade them when they're ready to upgrade their business. It's not a matter of fully swapping platform, potentially building out off of something that's soundly built.
Yeah, you could build. That's kind of where I was going with that idea, is that you could build $1 million business on WordPress by picking the right thing and gearing it, like really dialing it in for that user. You could throw out so much other stuff and just say, I'm basically building a link tree version of websites and it's for this. There's a person out there for that. You might have to do some research and dig in and find where they're at and then kind of really go at it. But you could do that and you could build that on WordPress and you could remove what you wanted and you'd have all the awesome stuff that you want with WordPress, where you have auth and user management and e-commerce. You could have all that plugged in, remove all the other stuff, and then really funnel it to a vertical. That's where I would love to see this new stack go, and I think it's one of the most. Go ahead.
No,
Say
nobody's
that-
You're just echoing yourself there.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
my bad. Yeah, that's where I would love to see us get a little more creative with is like, sure, we can sit and criticize Gutenberg for what it is in its current state, but what else can you do with it? Do something cool and interesting with it. Kevin's building etch on top of it. That's going to be a whole crazy thing, and like that's a great example of how you take the foundation that is pretty solid and has many years of development into it, and then build off it. So let's see some more of that.
Yeah, and I'll just add to what you were saying there, Mike, because like the situation I'm now with is with a client who has to get a new site, and I'm essentially going into WordPress with a dashboard editor to remove all the buttons on the side to like just this page, this is post, this is news custom post type. And I'm thinking of, say whatever the case, I disappear 5 years from now and they want to keep building on at e-commerce. It's a matter of just turning things on versus a full platform switch. So I think something that has that scalability in mind, where any developer from somewhere else could hop in and upgrade their site and add functions without a platform switch would be huge.
That's huge, yeah.
Do you feel like it's hard to do? It's hard for you to. Do you have to do a lot of extra work to tailor WP admin to your clients? Do you feel like WordPress could have made that a lot easier for you?
I'd say yes, because like I am coming from SEO, but I have to kind of learn the building of sites because so many of them are trash and broken. I'm like, okay, let me just learn how to fix this thing. So I ended up learning web dev myself. But most clients never touch tools, they never touch settings, they rarely touch users unless they know it. Most people just give me their login passwords. I'm like, no, never do that. Could you create an account for me? I have to create a video. So it's like there's this great ability to dumbify the dashboard for people who aren't tech savvy, and then they could just give like a dev access to the person they're hiring and they get the classic WP admin dashboard. I feel like that alone will scare less people because anytime I'm talking, it's like, oh no, that thing's slow, it's broken, it's confusing. They have all these negative connotations from like where WordPress was 5 years ago. And then I'm having to like educate them on how things have changed. It's much more secure. The reason it wasn't secure is because you hired somebody on Fiverr who didn't pay for the plugins. So there's like a lot of educating that comes into place. And if you could just dumb it down, that'd be huge.
I think that it's kind of like a damning argument again, because let's go back to WordPress essentially has this mission that anybody should be able to use it. It should be, but your number one thing is like every client that I onboard, I have to dumb it. Like I have to remove all this stuff so that they know what's going on and so that they can even begin to use it. So that's like a clear example of they've been failing in their mission. All of this focus was put on Gutenberg, not put on the CMS, not put on the UI. To me, if it was real leadership in place, you would look at that. Again, it's just the basic question of who are our users? Okay, we've got agencies and freelancers, so we've got to put a bunch of stuff in place. One of the things that we would put in place for them is the ability to natively simplify the WP admin for their clients who then need to go in and do whatever they're in there for. Now, there's another side debate and side quest that we could tackle of should people even be, even though I build the entire site for them, should they be editing any part of it? Should they be doing anything? I mean, like Doug's point was fantastic. I love when people make points like he made about the alt text. So many people tell me, Kevin, it's just a blog post. Like, let the client in. It's just a blog post. Let them do it. I let them do anything. I just tell them, I inform them, I educate them. You should not be in here. Okay. And it is in your best interest to leave all of this alone and let us do whatever you need happen. And here's why. We get this. It's just a blog post, Kevin. Okay. Why let them write a blog post? You know what I do? I log in. All the paragraphs are centered aligned. The images are 8 megabytes. There's no alt text. There's H1 headings all over the place. Really, it's just a blog post. This is my main argument of you can't dumb it down enough. As Doug said, the minute you give them a heading block, they fucked it up. That's it. You can't, if you can't get past the heading block, you should just end the mission of everybody should be able to do this. And that's not it's easy or not easy thing. That's a literally, there is knowledge that has to be acquired to even take that step. And so we're already into the realm of some semblance of a learning curve. And if we get that, if you're like not even a thumbnail in to the mission and it's failing to that degree, you should just be like, all right, guys, this can't be the mission. This can't be the mission. And we have to go in a different direction. So that has been like that. To me, the disconnect is so gigantic that I can't believe we're still here trying to accomplish it?
Yeah, and just to kind of not be slightly counter that, it's like the stuff I set up for clients is like, especially now with the Brick strict content editor, it's just going like, you're not going to pay me $100 some an hour to change just one title on a page. Like it makes no sense because I'd rather spend money on making you money with your marketing than you change the text. But the setup of where they just click the page and they could only edit the words on that one H1, they're not going in there moving things around. For those few who are solopreneurs and scrappy, it kind of gets them by without having to invoice them for something that's useless. And that could be better spent on marketing to the point where they could then build a team or get someone to fully manage and maintain. Because there are those who are scrappy that run a business, they're able to kind of, because of Canva, everyone knows how to change the text on an image. They're not the old part of, I'm going to say the 65-year-old who's not tech savvy, but people are generally more hip nowadays. So I think there's room for something like that. And like, it would save me from having to completely edit Bricks and the whole back end to have to just change the title.
It's a good point. My counter to that, yes, it is easy to let them change a headline, but you're the SEO guy. Okay. Tell me the implications of randomly changing H1 text on a page that's ranking really, really, really well. There are potential consequences to doing that. If I ask the copywriter, what are the implications of me just randomly writing a new headline on a page that's converting really, really, really well? They'd be like, don't do that. And then we ask the analytics guy, what are the implications of somebody randomly changing the headline on this page that's ranking and converting and nobody knows they changed the headline? And the analytics guy is going to go, don't do that. I need to know when shit changes because I need to know why the analytics are tanking. So we've got 3 different areas of discipline: SEO, conversion, analytics, where just this simple act of let's let the client change the headline, right? So they don't need to pay me to do that. My argument is actually they kind of do, unless it's a hobby site. If it's a hobby site, there's no consequences. Sure, let them do it. But there are consequences to literally everything on an important business website. And so that's why my argument has been, make it a point to, no, you don't belong in here. You don't have any of you don't have any knowledge in any of these areas of discipline. You don't really belong in here. You don't belong it, sir. I'm gonna represent myself in this murder case. No, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do any of that. You shouldn't take the stand. You shouldn't do. We have to do things that are in the best interest of the client, and that is informing them of when it's not their place.
Yeah, 100%. It's especially like again, the main people I'm talking to, people that are generally starting getting things going. It's all their traffic's gonna be coming from paid. They're not ranking anyways, but there is a point where it's like, look, you're now at a stage you need not be touching these things, and you now have budget to be paying for all these extra services to make sure we get you going ahead. But it's very much, I was just thinking about that person who's starting up on themselves, because a lot of them I deal with, they're starting a business, it's their first time. They saved $10,000 to run on ads, and it's like, let's make you some money, then let's focus on making everything else pretty.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing is the scrappy people, I'm not worried about the scrappy people. The scrappy people are scrappy. They're going to figure it out. There's a lot of they're the people that are going to, it's the lay people where it's like, no, we can make this super easy for like when the experts start pushing them in that direction, like that's where I because not everybody's scrappy, not everybody, and I look at people who are like, man, I'm putting my life savings in this business, my hopes and dreams are in this business, my family's relying on me, and then we got experts just pushing, oh yeah, I mean you could do it yourself, I just use WordPress, anybody can do it, right? And like what you are doing is you're just gently pushing them off a cliff, and it's like then they crash and burn. It's a giant fireball. They're broke. They're bang, and then it's like, I mean, you tried. It's like, I don't want to see that happen, and I don't think we should be encouraging that.
10,000%. Thank you.
Doug, we want to give you a chance to come back if your tech is working now. Is Doug here? I see he came back. I just don't know if his audio is working.
I see him. I got a mute sign under him right now, but I don't know.
Yay, I found the tab.
There he is.
Oh, there he is. There he is.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. That's the second time I had to restore the page. I don't know whether I'm getting I'm not losing connection. It's just it's almost like a timeout. If I don't touch the X page, then it times out after so many minutes. It seems like it's weird.
I'll text Elon real quick and get him on this.
Yeah, there you go. No, all good points. I every lately every time I think I want to respond to something, somebody else makes a good point about it. But yeah, I don't recall where I broke out and what the last thing you heard was, but I think you got the gist of what I was saying.
Yeah, we it was like right after the alt tag conversation and all of that, I think, and headings and
Oh, okay, gotcha.
yeah.
No, I'm good. I've got some other points to make, but they're slightly off topic, so I'll wait.
All right. Well, we've got I think we're about 6 minutes left on the show. Mark, do we want D123 to make his side quest points here, or do you have something else you want to add?
No,
I'll just check in with everybody.
We can head into that, sure.
Okay.
All right, close us out, Doug.
I'm going to just make a pitch just because I hear it so often and I explain this so often. This is so fundamental. It's not called Gutenberg, guys. It's called WordPress. Gutenberg is gone. Gutenberg is now a plugin for beta testing, where the latest test. Somebody correct me if they think I'm wrong, but Gutenberg is a beta testing plugin. It was first used for what we call Gutenberg, the block editor, if you will. But so people get confused between WordPress and Gutenberg, native WordPress, and the block editor. It's a confusing mess. WordPress is like exercise in the bastardization of technology anyway. So anyway, that's my rant. It's not called Gutenberg. It's called WordPress. Another thing I think that would help the success of WordPress, this is a separate topic, is if there was some attention paid for people that want to transition from .com to .org or vice versa. That is a nightmare situation. It should be easy, but it's not. So that would allow people, like Kevin was making the point earlier, .com should be left for the no coding environment or whatever they want it to be, the environment for everybody. Where .org, they should leave that alone so it could be more of a dev environment. At some point, people are going to want to want to transition from one to the other. And if there could be some attention paid to that aspect, switching from .com to .org without having to rebuild your entire site, I think that would help a lot. So those are my side points.
Cool. Mark, or Chris or Mike, anybody?
I just wanted to just touch on that Gutenberg thing real quick. I tried to, I made a whole video on that, trying to low key correct people, and I actually got some like pushback from, we'll just say, some leadership folks that, and you see like in everyday conversation, even Matt calls it Gutenberg. So there is just a confusion about what it is. I also was under the impression that this is just native WordPress now, and Gutenberg is the development plugin. But now it's become such a hot mess that everyone calls it Gutenberg, WordPress. Yeah, it's confusing. And
I thought Gutenberg was the initiative, like the project itself.
Yeah. Gutenberg is the code name for the block editor. I see what Doug is saying in the sense that they created a plugin for the purposes of beta testing the next iterations of features, and they put experimental stuff in there as well. But I think the nail in the coffin for, like, I say Gutenberg all the time. I have Gutenberg as a separate entity. It's not like, I wouldn't agree with it's just called WordPress. And I think the nail in the coffin here is if you go to wordpress.org/Gutenberg, it brings up an instance of the block editor that says, say hello to Gutenberg, the WordPress editor. Like, that is the code name for the block editor in WordPress. And so I think if we just accept that, and by the way, I think Matt loves that name. I'm sure, like, there's so much behind that word. And I think he would argue that is the code name for the block editor project in general, not just the plugin. But I would encourage everybody to go to wordpress.org/Gutenberg, because that's the best overview I think that you're going to get of their vision of how this fits into WordPress.
I think I just accepted Sinan into.
Oh yeah, he was in earlier. I was
Yeah.
wondering.
I'm not sure if.
Yeah, I refuse to accept that Gutenberg is the block editor. No, it's not. I think it is. I have a good example for it. Gutenberg is like Manhattan Project, the project name, and the block editor is the product, and the site editor, I don't know what it is. That's my thinking.
I think it wasn't it though? If we just looked it up, isn't it like Gutenberg's the project? There was multiple different like phases of it, and we're currently in the Google Docs phase of collaboration, or something.
WordPress.org/Gutenberg. Literally, the headline literally says that Gutenberg is the WordPress editor.
Yeah, I mean they named it like the project name like that. Even I remember in the past, like Matthias talking about it like as a project name, not the product name. That's how I remember.
Gotcha.
I think they changed their mind, maybe because of Matt. I don't know.
Very likely.
Nobody knows.
Very likely.
Anyway.
All right. Well, are we putting this one in the books, Mark?
I think this has been fantastic. Really appreciate all you guys. Mike, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Mike,
Yeah, for sure. This is awesome.
We'll definitely have
all right, everybody.
Definitely have to do more.
Yeah, we'll have Mike back for sure. This is going to be going out later today to the Spotify's and the Apple Podcasts and everything else for anybody who wants to re-listen or hasn't listened yet. You can get all subscription information at wptownhall.show. You can see all upcoming shows. You can get the links to the X Space. I know X Spaces can be difficult to find. So if you're wanting to be a participant on a WP Town Hall episode, as the fine people who came on today were, the best thing to probably do is go to wptownhall.show. It says next show. It says the heading. It says the guest, and you can just click on it. That's going to take you right to the X Space so that you can join. And then you just ask to be a speaker and you're good to go. If you're just browsing the X feed, even though we're live and stream, you're unlikely to see it. So just go to wptownhall.show. That's the best way to get to it. Thanks to Mike. Thanks to Mark. Thanks to all of our guests today. We'll be back in 2 weeks for another one. Peace.
All right. Another one in the books here. I think we are off. Yes. Cool. I like to do a little post-game thoughts with you guys just because we got it streaming. Appreciate all your comments in here. A lot of good stuff. Yeah, I don't have a lot of answers, to be honest. I think that I wanted to. There's a couple key things that I'll just bring up here real quick, and then we'll go our separate ways here. But the main thing that I was thinking about throughout that, and I didn't get a perfect chance. Doug, as he was mentioning, he's like huge in the meetup space. Met him through there. Was in a ton of meetups in this past year. Haven't had the chance to go to as many recently, but the thing with that is that I really do feel like, and I mentioned it before we started. I had that video that I just posted today. I have another video tomorrow. I think that I've gotten so personally, this is me personally, maybe you guys feel the same, maybe you feel differently. I've gotten so deeply ingrained into the WordPress ecosystem and community in the past year here that I truly believe at this point I don't have a good enough understanding of people outside of WordPress. And I think that when you're trying to sell somebody on a product or like a platform, you need to at least understand what they're thinking and what they think about you. And I'm trying to do that with my own stuff, my own audience. I'm trying to get feedback on what I should do next, the types of content, the moves that I should make, what people want to see and all that sort of stuff. And I think it's the same type of way. Now, I'm not sure how that actually comes to be. I don't know whose responsibility that is. I think that there's been so much growth and so much evolution and innovation throughout WordPress through all these years. But I just do think now that we're in a weird spot where there's other things coming up. There's AI. And I do really believe that there's a lot of people out there that have that opinion of my buddy that I mentioned where it's like, oh, WordPress is dead. And he's not being mean when he says that. He just literally doesn't know about it. Now, again, he's just a random person. But the point is that I really believe that if he goes to start a business, yeah, he might listen to somebody. But if he already has that belief, then it's at least going to be like, at least somewhat skeptical when somebody says, "Oh, we're going to build your website in WordPress." Like if he's a smart guy, he's going to listen to an expert, but I just think that that's not a good thing that you want your brand to be. You know what I mean? It's just I don't really think that that's I don't think that's really a good place that we want to be with the platform that we love. And again, I don't think that there's anything. The more that I think about it and process it, there's so much that rides on WordPress right now that that is really good and is going to be has been good for a very long time, and a lot of like literal, like just in one way to put it, like so much money that's behind WordPress in the sense of all the websites that are built on it, the brands that rely on it, and everything like that. So I don't see it like going away, but I just do think that those types of conversations are important to have, because if you don't have those types of things and you bring these things up and you actually talk about them openly, then moving forward it could be, you could wake up one day and like it's continued to trend in a direction that you don't really like. And I don't know. I also don't think, caveat to this, I don't really think WordPress could ever be like 100% of the internet. I do think it like could be theoretically, because it could do pretty much everything else that all the other things could do, but you're never going to have that. It's kind of like in web design in a way. It's like I see WordPress and Wix and Squarespace. It's like Wix and Squarespace or whatever, they're kind of undercutting WordPress in a way, not necessarily by just pure amount of money that it costs, but more so about the amount of time and energy and education that you need to have sometimes in order to create, WordPress website versus like a Wix or a Squarespace website. And I think that those two things kind of combined, and when you bring all that together, it again kind of manifests in a situation kind of like, just amongst all the other variables, something that we kind of have here. And yeah. And I mean, the last thing I would say, I'd talk about, this is a topic that I kind of mostly talked to Matt Medeiros about. We touched on it. I feel like every time we talk publicly, we're kind of always talking about this, is, the concept of where are we going next. And Matt always is predicting things 5 years before they happen. So I would listen to him where things are going to go. But just me trying to like have that conversation and think about where everything's headed, is that I think that it now is real time, especially what we've seen in the last like 6 months, that there's probably going to be more of productization of WordPress in a sense, because for whatever reason it is. And I don't think the open source aspect is going to go away, but I do think that it's going to be a little bit more commercialized in some way, shape, or form, or something like that. I just feel like that's probably likely, given what we're kind of seeing from the top down there. And I don't think that's inherently a bad thing, because I think if you do productize something, maybe you care about it a little bit more from the sense of how it grows. But that's probably going to rub a lot of people the wrong way if that does happen, because they're just akin to it being, kind of like an open source project where it's never incredible from a fun, like it is capable, but it's never incredible from a polished perspective, because that's not the driving force behind it. If you have a product, generally I feel like, something controlled by fun, like amount of money, it's like, how can we get this in the most amount of hands? How can we make this the most marketable? I don't think that's really been how WordPress has been to this point. So if you're not akin to that, if you're not like, on board with that, then that's probably going to shake it up for you a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. We're just speculating at this point, so I don't really know. But I don't know, it's fun. That was a fun conversation. Excited to have Mike there to chat. We had a lot of, different topics and things. Kind of didn't go super no code versus low code. There's obviously a little bit of touch of that, but I apologize that wasn't exactly the topic. But I do think all of these things run in tandem, and they always end up coming kind of back to the same motifs here and there. So I don't know. I don't know if there's a way to actually solve all of these problems. Probably not in a short amount of time anyway. So it's probably a long-term thing. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And yeah, appreciate all you guys being here. Chris says Etch will hopefully be a huge breakout and possibly useful inside of WordPress ecosystem. The web dev land is actually the Wild Wild West. Newbies are left with no idea. I was clueless. Yeah, I mean that's that's kind of the thing. There is, we were talking about all that stuff, and I'm constantly thinking, how can we get more opinions from people that are either just starting or total noobs? Because I just do think that I've done it, I've been guilty of it, and I don't want to be guilty of it anymore, where I'm putting like I'm speculating on like how people think, act, and what they kind of feel. You know, because like I said in that sales call that I had recently, it's like these business owners just want to make money ultimately. They know that, like, I literally was on that sales call. I'm paraphrasing the video that I just posted, and they're on the sales call, and we're on the sales call, and they're just like, "Hey, we're just starting our business. You quoted us $5,000 for this. This other guy quoted us like $1,000 or whatever. XYZ. Uh, can you do it for less, or can you give us not they didn't actually say can you do it for less. That's a dick move, and that's a complete red flag. They were like, can you do less for less? And I'm willing to do that. Okay, I don't want to speak for Kevin in the sense, because I know we're talking about this a lot, but like for me, like I think that if you lower your scope and your price at the same rate, then that's whatever. I mean, maybe you can have a minimum viable thing to get you out of bed or whatever to do it, but okay. But like if you lower your scope and your price, then I don't see a huge deal with that, because it's not just, you're not just like lowering your price arbitrarily. But that said, you know, depending on how you want to see these transactions, like as you guys can kind of tell from, you know, the way that Kevin thinks there, and you know, he's had a lot of success with from the agency standpoint and the product standpoint. It's like he has a vision of what people should be doing and the way people should think in the agencies, or I'm sorry, not in the agency space, in the business realm regarding websites and kind of marketing in a sense. And I think I'm a little different than him in that position, because I do think that there's like more of an optimal tuning that you could have with thought process and mindset there, because we all know that, like, you know, in order to make money, you kind of have to think like there's more than one way to make money, but like there's like some level of like objectiveness that you should have in the way that you're approaching those things. You know, it's probably like on paper, there's like a lot of things that you would say, you would look at and you'd be like, that makes sense. One of the things is like, if you're a business owner and you know nothing about building a website, is it useful? Is it like more beneficial for you to fucking just build, like go do your business activity, or is it more beneficial for you to learn how to fucking build a website? Let's say you're a construction worker, or you own like a contractor, right? Should I go make my own website, or should I just hire somebody to make my website, and while I'm dicking around in WordPress or Wix or whatever it is, should I just have gone and got another project? I mean, anybody with like, I won't make a blanket generalization, but I would say 99% of the time it's going to make more sense for you to hire somebody and just go get another job doing what you want, add another thing to your portfolio in your industry, rather than dealing with this other thing. I don't want to say this is a problem, but where we're at in the world is that we have, for some reason, for a lot of reasons probably, it's seemingly very easy for people to make websites. Like it's just something that is seemingly like anybody can do that. Kind of like how Kevin gets riled up when people say that. And I do agree, because I don't know exactly how that happened. It's really just because it's the marketing of those other platforms and all that sort of stuff. I'm not really saying that's inherently a bad thing, but it is definitely like not optimal in most cases. Like I 100% agree with that. The problem is that I was a business owner and I didn't really know how to build websites, and I ended up just wanting to build websites, so it's not a great example. But I know a lot of people that just want the bare minimum, and they think that when they go to somebody, they're going to charge them out the ass for it, and then they're going to be like almost in debt, and they're not really going to have what they need, or what they, you know, wanted or whatever. And I get all those points. I just think everything's kind of gray, and ultimately I try to like bucket things because I'm a human and I want to see the patterns and be like objective and do that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's really, you have to kind of look at every person, every scenario that you're in, and see what is best for those people. That's why, like, when I get, you know, pushback, I'm like, okay, we'll do less. I'll do less for you. I'll charge less for you, but I'm also going to do less for you. And then if you agree to that, then whatever. And we can start there and we can move up and go as we need to. I wish I would have done that more in my early agency days, because I feel like that would have been a little bit better, instead of doing weird deals and shit to get deals. I wish I would have just rather been like, hey, I pitched you this $20,000 thing. You came back and said you didn't need that. I'm going to go lower. You know, this is another thing why you should always be kind of like cognizant of like what your people are willing to purchase, like how much they're willing to actually spend and how much they possibly can spend before you go into it. There's just a lot of things around that, but I think if you have those honest conversations up front, your experience is probably going to be better, you know. And then I don't know. I mean, we're talking about a lot of different topics, but yeah. So it's a whole thing. You know, like I said, I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate you guys jumping in. Everybody that was chatting in the actual space there was awesome. Appreciate all the comments and everything like that. I think that WordPress is going to continue to I mean, honestly, I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. Like for me personally, just so you know where I'm at, so I can level with you, is I'm way past just WordPress at this point. Like WordPress is something that I'm in, and I love, and I'm thankful for it, and I love the people in this community. But like I'm definitely past WordPress in a sense of like what I'm focused on. I want to continue to build and provide tutorials and everything in WordPress and leverage it, and give back as much as I can as far as education and everything like that. But I'm also not sticking with just being like WordPress is the end all be all. I don't believe it to be. Like I think it's going to last, but I think that with the advent of like AI, all the other platforms out there, automation, those are things that I'm going to work alongside and work into my WordPress content and my mindset around that, because ultimately, last thing, and then I'm gonna go, is those things are all technical pieces of what, if I actually want to be totally vulnerable personal here, if I actually want to be like a successful entrepreneur, I need to like know those things and simultaneously like not get the fuck out of them, but like kind of remove myself slightly from them, because I need to actually worry about how to put in inputs every day that are ultimately going to result in like outputs, and outputs generally in business are just money, right? So just leveraging those types of things to provide value and I don't know, generate revenue for myself and clients and anybody that I'm involved with. So that's really how I'm thinking of it. I am a technical person, but I'm much more of like higher level like operations almost, and kind of the business part of it. And I feel like I have to be, because nobody else is going to be that person for me in my business. Like I have to do that. So that's kind of really where I'm at with that whole thing. If anybody cares about that part. Chris says I've been fleeced by theme developers. The so-called editable themes were a money trap. Yeah, I mean, the change, the landscape. This is the other thing too. Is like I wish we would, it's trouble, because like every time you make a piece of content, you almost have to have like 15. You have to like do a 20-minute preamble on like the 20 years of history that has gone on here. Like that to me doesn't even seem like something that's necessary anymore. Like you don't need to do that. Um, you know, if you did something like Mike's platform Ollie, like you could have so much so quickly, if that's a route you wanted to go. Like if you want to stay closer to core, if you do something like more like Kevin and I do currently, like with the bricks and an ACSS. I mean, obviously there's a little bit more there, but like if you get frames, you basically already have like a ton of layouts and everything that you can already just plop in. So I'm talking like, you have your core experience, you have your page builder experience. Kevin's going to do Etch, which is kind of like a hybrid of both of them. So there's so many options, and the trouble is that it's taken me so long. I started messing around with WordPress in like 2017. It's taken me this long to get to the point where I feel like I have a solid lay of the land. You can't even like ask anybody or expect any layperson to even come close to understanding any of all these nuances and all these different pockets of this that quickly. So, I think that there's too much to understand without actually diving in. And so when Kevin makes the points, I can't really fully disagree with him, where it's like, other like lay people, average business users, whatever, they shouldn't really be in here. If they're scrappy and they want to, more power to them. But it just doesn't make sense. And the way that Kevin's education style is very much that, where he is saying he believes it should be this way, and that's how he's objectively saying it to you. And again, like something like that, I can't really disagree with it. I just feel the part where we differ, I feel like, is that I just don't think that that's going to be the reality. I think we're always going to have people that want to build their own shit. Okay, this is going to sound really shitty, but I'm going to say it. We are always going to have business owners. I'm going to lump myself in this category, at least to a degree. We're always going to have business owners that are going to want to do the shit that is not going to make them move forward. Like they're all because I'm absolutely guilty of this. We're always going to have people that like they want to start a bakery, but instead of figuring out how to make better cakes and and actually like improve their product, improve their business, and drive their business, they just want to fuck around with the things that are like the list of shit that you would find if you Googled how to start a business. We're always going to have those people. And for better or for worse, those people are going to be the people that are going to want to like again, spend hours on like a Wix or a Webflow, or no, not Webflow, probably not a great example, but like a Squarespace, and they're going to want to do that, or even in Gutenberg, and like they're just going to want to do that. And I think that is I can't even say if that's a good or a bad thing. I mean, objectively, you could say that's probably not a good thing for them to do. But do I think that they're gonna like get changed overnight and want to do that? I don't think so, because I'm not even fully changed yet. Like I'm still trying to like when you hear me say this shit about like I want to focus on like making money, it's because so I stop thinking about the stuff that like is not generating revenue. Again, I'm trying to mix an experience that I have with what I'm seeing, but that's the way that I process all of that. And that's ultimately kind of what I feel like it comes down to. You're gonna have scrappy people, and you're gonna have people that are like kind of scrappy, but are just kind of like hobbyists messing around that like say they want a business, but they're not actually gonna go take the steps. And those people are always gonna need served, and that's kind of one of the lanes that those types of things actually do. I'm gonna say relatively well. They make people that are like just building random stuff on the internet so they could say that they have a website. It makes them feel really good. I don't really see an incredible problem with that. It's just not. It doesn't really align with what I believe to be the best route. But that's and that's kind of one way that I would describe that. So yeah, it's a nuanced thing, as as I like to say, and I think that we're all in a good position because we all understand what this takes to do, and we understand this deeply, and we're looking at these things, and we have a lot of different options. If you're this caring about like WordPress and the tech behind this, you shouldn't be worried. You should just always be ready to adapt and evolve. Like if you need to go to the left and build websites for people that need them at a high level, then you can do that. If you go right and you want to stop dealing with like the higher ticket people and just go to the people that just need the entry level stuff, you can absolutely make a business off that. Set them up with the best little easy platform that you can, like the entry level platform, and then if any of them sprout up, if some of them are going to churn and they're gonna go away, but if some of them sprout up, then boom, now you have a client that you could have just nurtured that whole time, and maybe now they're going to love you. If you sold somebody for $1,000, I got to remember this. If you sell somebody $1,000 landing page or whatever, and then in 12, 18 months, they've just been paying you or whatever, and now they're actually hitting the thing, they're going to love you because you almost gave them a shot. Now they might transfer to somebody else. I can't predict the future, but that's something that's kind of interesting there. All right, last one from Chris here. Then I'm ACS Frames and Edge, fantastic education in semantics. There will always be people on the other side who will not care ever, and they have not got the time to care until it crashes. Yeah, I mean, I use ACS and Frames. I'm on the advisory board for Etch. I'm excited to see what happens there. The one thing I know again about the team, Etch and Kevin and the whole entire team is, they're relentless. Like, you can tell by Kevin, he's definitely gonna, if you objectively agree with a lot of the stuff Kevin says, it's gonna be an Etch and it's gonna be a fantastic experience for you. And I do think that, I feel like that is gonna be definitely a premier way to build websites in the WordPress ecosystem here as it continues to get rolled out. So I'm excited to use it and see how it is, and we'll just see where the future holds with the rest of it. I mean, again, we don't know the biggest we'll leave it on this. The biggest variable in all of this is just what happens to WordPress from a more, again, I would say like a top down approach. We've seen a lot of weird shit happen the last 6 months. I don't even know is there still only 40 hours being directed towards core right now. I feel like there is, because of the whole like matching WP engines thing. We can't control any of that. Like we can't even worry about any of that because we can't control any of it. So I wouldn't recommend worrying. I would just be like cognizant of it. It's like just control. I like the Serenity prayer, and I'm not really hugely religious, but I like the Serenity prayer. It's like, I'm gonna paraphrase it because I can't remember it off the top of my head, but like, have the courage to change things you can. Is it serenity to know the things you can, or like the wisdom to know the difference? But my point is just like control the shit that you can. The stuff that you can't, don't worry about it. So, yeah, that's all I got, guys. Appreciate you all. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of WP Town Hall and my pregame and postgame thoughts here. We will be back. We're trying to do it every 2 weeks, so we'll definitely let you know. Make sure you go to wptownhall.show to check it out. Follow me and Kevin on X so you see all the updates and all that jazz. And just thank you guys. Appreciate you. Talk to you in the next one. I will be live Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern. So I'll see you guys then.